Welcome to Cambridge, Massachusetts. Today we're diving into one of the world's most prestigious and storied institutions of higher learning, Harvard University. But we're not just here to talk about its academic ranking. We're going to uncover the fascinating, the quirky, and downright surprising facts about Harvard that you won't find in the brochures. You probably didn't know about the furry creatures who live along with students in the freshman dormitories. Or what about the jaw-dropping size of Widener Library's underground basement, or the ghost that haunts it? These revelations will make you see Harvard in a whole different light. Whether you're a prospective student, an alumni, or just a curious mind, stick around as we unveil the top 10 most surprising facts about Harvard University. Number 1. That's not John Harvard. The most iconic landmark on the Harvard campus is a statue of its founder, John Harvard, that sits in the middle of Harvard Yard. But that's not John Harvard. No one really knows what the founder of Harvard University looks like, because all of his portraits and books were destroyed in a fire at Harvard Hall a long time ago. So if that's not John Harvard, who is he? He's a Harvard graduate named Sherman Hoare, who went on to become a U.S. congressman. But Mr. Hoare never got any buildings named after him on the Harvard campus because they felt like his last name was a little inappropriate. But as for the statue itself, tourists are supposed to rub it for good luck. However, our tour guide encouraged everyone to wash their hands afterwards, since the statue is left unattended at night when college students do all sorts of crazy things.
I will advise you wash your hands afterwards, because this does stay unattended 24/7 while students are doing crazy things at night. So that's just going to be my advice for you today.
Number 2. The dorm rooms have no air conditioning. While you're soaking up a world-class education at Harvard, be prepared to sweat it out in your room. That's right. Despite the $83,000 annual cost to attend Harvard University, the rooms come with no air conditioning. You only get a cool breeze if you're the college president, a dormitory supervisor, or if you can produce a medical letter that says you can't live without it. Otherwise, you're out of luck. And if you think the dormitory buildings look like prisons, you're not entirely off base. That's because the dorms are riot-proof. They were built that way because of the 1960s Vietnam War protests. Number 3. The dorm rooms have rats. Another harsh reality of dormitory life at Harvard is that students are having to share their Ivy League experience with some roommates they would rather not have. Rats and mice. As if the academic coursework isn't challenging enough, cohabitating with rodents is another achievement some Harvard graduates can add to their resumes when they graduate. The rat problem that students complain about highlights a stark contrast between the university's esteemed reputation and the gritty truth about student life behind these ivy-covered walls. Number 4. Widener Library has 50 miles of basement space. Widener Library on the Harvard University campus was built on a monumental scale. It contains over 50 miles of shelf space and has the capacity to hold over 3 million books. It's the biggest academic library in the United States, and even students who work in the library have gotten lost in it. Number 5. Harvard's library was named after a Titanic victim. Harry Elkins Widener graduated from Harvard in 1907 and was an accomplished book collector who perished at age 27 when returning from Europe on the ill-fated Titanic. His mother, who survived the shipwreck, built the massive library in his honor. She also donated his rare book collection to the library, which included a Gutenberg Bible. It was one of only 10 complete or near-complete copies then known to exist in the United States, and it's the oldest book in Harvard's library. Number 6. Harry still gets fresh flowers. Fresh-cut flowers are delivered daily to a memorial room dedicated to Harry Elkins Widener at Harvard's library. The memorial room has a portrait of Harry above the fireplace and a desk that belonged to Harry. His mother, Mrs. Widener, requested that fresh flowers be present in this space at all times, a request that has been fulfilled to this day.
True, but this third thing that I'm going to tell you, it is 100% true, and I can tell you why, because I've been here so many times that I've verified myself. And so we actually have a recreation of his reading room, and that's one of the things she demanded. And it's actually right there. We have most of his books that he collected as a bibliophile right there, and it's a very expensive collection, very important, and that's also where we store the Gutenberg Bible. And so this gets a little crazier. So she only allows 2 people in the room, and that is her son, may he rest in peace, and a florist. And I know that no one goes in there, but I didn't know this before coming to Harvard. So when I came and I saw fresh flowers put in his desk, because she actually demanded every single day to put new fresh flowers in his desk. And every day they're like a new color, and they're actually different flowers that they put out every day. So I can assure you that that happens. I've actually never seen this mysterious man, the florist, but my friends.
Number 7. The 14 Golden Horned Unicorns. Each year, 14 freshmen are handpicked to live on top of the office of the president of Harvard University. They're known as the Golden Horned Unicorns because they are so few in number. Only 14 students get the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to live in Massachusetts Hall, the same building where the president of Harvard University goes to work. The president occupies the first 2 floors. The 14 freshmen live on the 3rd floor of Massachusetts Hall.
You know, people like to gossip about it, but we think that actually the president gets to choose the 14 most studious and quietest students to live at the top. I personally had the pleasure to know some of them last year, the ones that lived there. Trust me, they were in the most studious or the most quiet. But this is where I live.
Number 8. Harvard turned a historic dorm room into an elevator. When Harvard students need some inspiration, they can always visit the former dorm room of President John F. Kennedy and experience new heights.
So yeah, this is actually Weld, and in Weld, the famous John F. Kennedy lived there when he was at Harvard. We actually can no longer live in his room because they actually destroyed it to build an elevator. So it doesn't matter if you become president or one of the most famous presidents in history, you still get your room destroyed by Harvard. This over here.
Number 9. There was a ghost in Widener Library.
My friends have seen the ghost of Harry Elkins Widener. Fortunately, I haven't had an experience with him. Maybe he's been friendly with me because trust me, I wouldn't go back there anymore if I actually had a weird experience. So we've actually had things happen, like books flogging around in his reading room, like weird things happening at night when students are staying here very late at night. So trust me, weird things happen. So we do believe that actually the ghost of Harry Elkins Widener resides here in this library. You know, maybe he's among us. Maybe he's right here. Hi, Harry.
Number 10. Harvard said no, but Stanford said yes.
Australia. And this actually happened. After the Civil War, this wealthy man took his family to Italy for a vacation. His youngest grandson, who was 14 years old, all he wanted to do was come to Harvard. That's all he talked about incessantly, to the point that the family wanted to kill the poor kid. He wanted to come to Harvard. Unfortunately, on the way back from Italy, the poor kid died of typhoid fever. But his grandfather, who was the wealthy guy, came here to Harvard, go up there to the president of Harvard University, a college probably at the time, and said he wanted to buy a house. Originally one of these houses, Lowell House, Elliott, Dunster, and all those other houses. He wanted his grandson's name put on it. The president of Harvard says, no. 14 years old, your grandson never came here. He says, you're right. He says, I'll buy a building. You can build a building, but I want it in the name of my grandson. The guy from Harvard got kind of upset. Sir, your grandson never came to Harvard. He'll never have his name put in any of these buildings here on campus. He said, I am busy, would you please leave? That man left and went back home. His name was Leland Stanford, living in Palo Alto, California, and that's how Stanford University started, with the money he was going to give Harvard. And what do they call Stanford now?
Stanford.
That's the Harvard of the West Coast.
This is the Stanford of the East Coast.